Yeah.
transformation and sometimes find yourself alone in it or lonely in it?
There's an experience of loneliness that can come from being the only person that you know that has cultivated a certain level of self-awareness, or who is paying attention to, say, the ways in which your social and cultural conditioning are always shaping your behavior, and where you're trying to kind of get outside of your conditioning, or in some way you are separating yourself from the pack. Because we all grew up in an environment in which we learn to conform. We're supposed to fit in. And so we do things the way other people do them. When you start to do things differently, and that could mean by developing yourself and developing your, just through personal growth, you now are doing things that nobody else is doing. And sometimes people don't understand, sometimes people actively judge you for it, sometimes people just can't get it. You try to explain it, you don't know how to explain it well yet, and they don't know how to get it. And so there's something that can feel very lonely about that. And you are willing to stand alone, you're willing to separate yourself from the ways that we've all learned to do things. But it can be lonely. There are three different kinds of ways that I think you can kind of remedy that loneliness. And the first, and perhaps most obvious, is you can find other people who are on a similar kind of path. Not the same path, but similar enough that you can compare notes. You can talk about what you're learning, you can talk about the challenges and the struggles and the beautiful things that you are seeing that other people don't seem to see. And so even just moments of getting to have contact through a community makes a huge difference. But if that's lacking, that's not always available, then the question is, how do you, given the developmental difference between you and somebody else who you're interacting with, still find a way to have a real meaningful interaction? Like, I love hanging out with teenagers, and I'm in a developmentally different place than most teenagers, along a bunch of different lines of development. But, teenagers are people who have rich lives and are exploring things in really exciting ways, and they have a kind of experience of the world that's different than what I have, and I have an experience that's different than what they have, and we can find a way to meet where, I'm learning from them, they're learning from me, or we're just sharing or showing each other different things. So developmental similarity is not required in order for you to have gratifying experiences of real contact. The third thing, and ultimately the most interesting, is figuring out, can you take other people with you? Can you find some way to take some bit of what you're learning, what's new in your exploration of yourself, and offer it to somebody else? You may not know how to be the teacher or to be the workshop. You may just know how to talk about your experience, or take somebody through an exercise that you've been through, or ask them a question that has them look at some part of themselves that you spent a lot of time looking at. Can you take people with you, even in small ways? It's really satisfying to be able to do that, and ultimately is a further level of your own development. To the extent that you can support other people to grow in the ways you've been growing, you'll be less alone, and you'll continue to develop further. So there's three remedies to the aloneness that comes from being further along the path than the people around you, are finding other people on the path, enjoying interacting with people at different levels of development, because anybody can have a meaningful interaction with anybody else, and figure out, is there some way you can take people with you, even in little ways.